I'm Dr. Bart Rademacher, and this is Prescription for Your Transformation. Real people, real conversations, and real success, and really tapping into that collective wisdom and creating that space for generative collaboration. And this has been a passion for me for quite some time. I've benefited from living in so many different countries, speaking four different languages, going through medical education, spanning over 17 years. And so I've got this unique perspective on life and about transformation, actively involved in the transformative world of the last 20 years, but also studied integrative energy healing with some of the best teachers, on the planet. And so for today, it gives me great honor and pleasure, and I feel absolutely blessed to be talking to Anthony Rivera. He is the founder and CEO of Sunfire Tribal, and also from the Acjachemen tribe in Southern California. And the last conversation I had with him is enlightening, and it's a beautiful portrayal on truly the ancestors of this country, truly the originators, the original, people who were living, on this nation. And it's time that we really begin to relate to that importance, because it's that connection with the planets, connection with the earth over centuries, and understanding how to find that harmony in ways that modern technology still can't even figure out. I was just reading a report today that the pyramids in Egypt, they still can't figure out how those were built. And so taking that into context, the Native Americans understood life in a way that we must embrace for us today. And for so many of us who are so fixated on Newtonian physics, which is the materialism, determinism, and the reductionism, it's hard to comprehend, how this let's call it intelligence of Native Americans can relate to us today. But it's more important than ever before to relate to this, to embrace it, to be open to that. Because if anybody is a testament to what modern science is really all about, that will be that crazy dude called Albert Einstein. And he's the one that brought in the whole concept of quantum physics. And that's energy. And that's the field. And as he, positioned it, it's the field that impacts the particle. And it's 100 times more than whatever, the particle affects the particle. So embracing this intelligence is where we can actually find a lot of the answers. And I'm going through my own journey in certain things in my life, current life, which I'm going to keep private right now, but the importance is the spiritual aspect of our existence and how we embrace it and how we move forward. So Anthony, thank you so much for joining me today once again in in this intelligence, which I think is so existential, if you will, to our survival. And it's something that Native Americans have embraced for centuries. And today we're going to be talking about different healing practices, transformation, and also the effect of sound and movement. And these are things that we've departed from because of our busy lifestyles in the modern tech world that really is harming us in so many ways, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, and physically. And so excited to hear your perspectives and the lessons that we can learn from you so that people can decide for themselves. And what's really important for me in all things that I share on this platform is I get to tap into the brilliance of other people, their perspectives, their experiences, and it's up to the viewer to decide for themselves, you know, is this right for them? Because it's not going to be right for everyone. And so please take that note, especially in this day and age where so many wonderful ideas are actually being canceled. This is not a time for that. This is a time to embrace, diversity, differences in different ways. And if it works for you, great. Anthony, thank you again.
Thank you very much, Ompaluf, we say in my language. Thank you very much for having me on your show here, and I appreciate that and all you do for folks out there this journey of harmony and transformation and healing. So I thank you again and enjoy um, talking with you. And if I can just start off by saying one thing, and that is I'm happy to say that Native American folks are still here and still thriving and still doing our best to continue our cultures, our languages, our traditions. And we realize, not that I'm a spokesperson for all Native folks, but uh, being one person in Indian country, um, uh, uh, I am happy to say that we are still here and look forward to reaching out to our brothers and sisters in other cultures to do our best to try to bring healing and harmony and balance to um, a very interesting world in this existence at this time. So I'm here to help and here to have this interesting discussion. I know there's more things that we do need to talk about. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you very much.
No, no, thank you, and thank you for those wise words and very carefully put, mind you. And again, it's a matter of developing this level of consciousness and awareness of ourselves and our environment and how we interact with that. And ultimately, at the end of the day, we all share very similar DNA, so we're all one part of humanity. And but how we experience this humanity is our own choice. And I think that's what's important. And so part of what I like to bring to this platform is helping people increase their choice, because that's where we can find a lot more happiness.
Mhm.
And it's by understanding different types of modalities and procedures and ceremonies that really can be incorporated. And one of the strong ones that we're going to start off with is sound and movement. And then we're going to go into a little bit about ceremony. And so, yeah, please share with us, your perspectives, how this is transformative, how this is healing, and
Mhm.
perhaps, how people can actually, begin to implement that in their own lives.
Mhm. Yes, very interesting topic indeed, and probably the foundation for of existence and creation, if you will. Let me just start off with a small caveat again, if I may, and that is, what we call Indian country in in North America, let's say, is a combination of hundreds of unique and distinct sovereign nations and peoples. Each one has their own language, their own customs and culture. There are many things that synergize between them, and there's a lot of sharing going on. But I do have to emphasize that each tribe, if you will, or nation, whatever name you give them, is indeed sovereign in every way, not only in their governments and their ability to govern themselves, but also in their sovereign in their abilities to continue their existence, if you will. And many sovereign nations have traditions that have been around for thousands of years. So even though we are all different and distinct, there are some similarities that we can discuss overall, and some ways in which we find affinity with each other. And one way we do that is in this interesting custom, which might be familiar to some of your listeners, and that is the concept of powwow, if you will. Powwow, I think folks know and use this word a lot in different things, gatherings of people to interact and do something special or purposeful. We use it sometimes in colloquial languages. Hey, we need to have a powwow, right? You've probably used that in your speech. But powwow in general, and gatherings in general, whether within one nation or invitation for other nations, is the gathering of um, uh, unified folks, usually families, friends, dignitaries, to um, harmonize and balance themselves. It's more than just a gathering of folks to sing and dance, right? It's not just jumping around and making a bunch of noise. There's something very significant to Native American gatherings where we have dance, music, song, movement. It's a lot more than just singing and dancing. Let me share just a couple things with you as a starting point where that is significant. We often experience music in the form of different types of instruments. It just depends on where you are in Indian country. Most tribes use drums to create a beat, if you will, or to create a rhythm for all those attending. And those vibrations are there to be a sort of a heartbeat for all, a unified heartbeat. And that helps the participants to engage in different types of practices. For example, in dance, we have all kinds of dances and elaborate costumes and regalia that are quite beautiful, that expresses different things and means all kinds of different things. But that movement of dance is a sort of conduit between heaven and earth, or what we call the creator above, the great spirit, and Mother Earth below. That every foot beat, and sometimes there's certain ways that you must hit the beat with the foot. Sometimes there are certain dances where you touch the earth with your toe, and you solidify that energy with your heel, and it's bringing energy from the sky or the great creator above through the dancer on the beat into Mother Earth and back again. It's just this beautiful conduit of sacred energy. Singing also, the sounds and the certain um, creation of vibrations again is very incredible. Native American powwow singers hit octaves that are so high sometimes, and these are typically men singers, will hit certain sounds that are so high that is very unique to this type of music. It's almost ceremonial because the energy is all moving in one direction. If you go to a powwow, and there's many all over the country, throughout Indian country, you will see that there's a certain orientation. Native folks are always moving clockwise. All the movements are clockwise. Okay, and it's very important that you move this way, because it keeps the cosmos oriented properly, and it keeps all the energy flowing in one direction. I've been in ceremonies where you walk the wrong way, or you get up off your seat or your chair and you turn the wrong way counterclockwise, and you have to get everything moving again, start over. So there's this flow of energy constantly in this circular motion, if not also in the vertical motions, that is quite beautiful. And when done right, um, it really brings some incredible healing and balance and orientation to the cosmos. We firmly believe that.
So I find that fascinating in when um, uh, there's I forget, I'm losing the name of it, but when you walk barefoot on sand, for example,
Mhm.
that's a very healing experience,
Mhm.
and it's called earthing. That's what it is. So, and basically, it's because we're now releasing our energies into the electromagnetic field of Earth.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so they actually say that, doing this for 30 minutes every single day on natural ground is absolutely important. And so I
Mhm.
see this, what you're talking about is it's a natural grounding, to the
Mhm.
planet, to the energies of the planet. Because through life, just general life with the stresses and the thoughts and everything else, our electromagnetic field gets sort of like discombobulated.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that, putting this in context for anybody who wants to really appreciate it more from a scientific perspective, if you will, is that when we have the collective energies resonating at a certain frequency that over time, has proven to be healthy, which is exactly, what's happened in all your sovereign nations. They've experienced this over time. And the rhythm and the vibration and the energy allows everyone to get in synchrony with that. And that's
Mhm.
where that healing begins.
Mhm.
And then it's also that mindset. What we're understanding, with the idea of the wormhole, which is the Einstein-Rosenberg bridge. The thinking is that of the 97% of our DNA that we don't know what it really does, that
Mhm.
some people feel that there is that energetic, bridge to connect, human energies. And so with that, there's a transfer of information, a transfer of, let's say, our spirit and our essence, so that when we're all collectively in the right place, right, through ceremony,
Mhm.
guess what? This is a very powerful healing process. So it's
Right.
not just a dance. And unfortunately, when you think about it, people dance these days, but it's almost a reckless dance because there's no purpose. It's just
Right.
dancing, but
Yeah.
still, even then, it can be relatively healing.
Mhm.
This through ceremony is so much more powerful.
Yeah. And the dance movements are very strategic, and there is some style to it, of course, because there's a nice competition between dancers who share the energy and work off each other sometimes. But many of the steps and movements are oriented at the right time, and the certain vibrations of the drums will initiate certain steps or certain honorings, if you will, at different times. And also, if I can add in the Native American mindset of healing, healing isn't always a individual experience. It's very much a community experience, actual real healing. So in other cultures or environments and societies, healing sometimes is conceived as oh, it's just me and and the doctor, or me and the treatment, or me and God, or something like that. In Native American tradition, it's very much a communal thing, that if one person is ill, it could affect the whole nation or the whole community, or in historic times, the whole village. So the harmony of the village is incredibly significant. So the whole village gets involved, and that's why I say the flow of the eternal round, if you will, and the balancing of the cosmos is extremely delicate. And whether it's ceremony, dance, powwows, or prayer, it's very much a communal thing. There are times when you need to do things individually, just between you and Mother Earth and the Creator. But many times, just for the harmony of the whole, healing and healing ceremonies are a communal, very much a communal thing. So it's very interesting that way. So I wanted to share that, and there are also some scientific ways to examine these things. I'm having these interesting discussions with some folks who are um, very much into the metaphysical world, and we're looking at the actual vibration um, results and designs, if you will, of the drums or the music in Native American ceremony. And we're noticing that they're actually forming these interesting, if you put certain light on a drum and you can see the vibrations and you can examine the patterns that they're making. And it's very much quite interesting and mathematical, scientific, the designs that are coming out of that, from the visual sound of the vibrations. It's quite intriguing.
And to think, this is something that developed without all this insight and knowledge,
Right, right.
but just through intuition and a connection. And
Yes.
that's one of the beautiful things. And I think, as a child, growing up in the US and Mexico and already being introduced to Native American intelligence, as I like to put it,
Hmm.
it resonated very much with me, and it felt good and made sense. And you knew it was healthy. And so that's my point, is that, when you have this type of connection that we've lost so much of it in our world today,
Right.
it's clear, how beneficial it really is.
Yeah. Yeah. And even in powwow, for example, there's a certain time when the circle or the arena, if you will, opens up and invites all to participate. It doesn't matter if they're native or not. We need the flow and that energy of all to experience. And some folks, think, well, I don't know any Native American dances. That's okay. We just need that energy in that flow to harmonize everybody. We have a circular emblem, if you will, a symbol that is often referred to as the medicine wheel, if you will. And it's typically divided in an axis with four spaces, if you will, four directions, we call it. Many times when we look at it in two dimensions, it looks like four, but it really needs to be three-dimensional, which includes two more, if not more dimensions, if you will. We like to include, the Great Spirit connection and the Mother Earth connection as two other directions. But it also reflects many other things, from the emotional world to the physical world to the spiritual world, and it also reflects different peoples and the differences between peoples, but the importance that they are together and moving in this wheel fashion forward together in harmony. So this is why many times we open up certain experiences to non-native people. And that's one aspect that we do, is we look for ways that we can try to help and share in the healing process, if you will, with folks who are in that kind of need.
And just to qualify that, for the listeners, it's all about authenticity and intention.
Right.
And it's coming from a place of solid experience over centuries. So it's not something you can just simply replicate and expect it.
No,
And
no.
and this is where, it's full ownership. But clearly the biggest impact is the community. And science has clearly shown this. I mean, you have 10% of any population, any community that's meditating, it actually affects the entire temperament of that community, just 10%. And interesting enough, there was, I think after 9/11, the year following that, on that particular day, it was
Hmm.
interesting that the winning lottery had 911 in it.
Hmm.
And why is that happening? Because at that time, everybody is thinking about 911.
Hmm.
And so clearly there's enough scientific evidence to show the importance of this. So let's talk a little bit more into so prayer, dream therapy, vision quests. You know, also because I think it's important for us to recognize, how our intention participates in this process. Again, doing something mindless, you're just going to get no results. But being very intentional really makes a difference, and that's where prayer comes in and dream therapy.
Yeah. We firmly believe in the power of prayer and the healing power of prayer. Um, Again, this has a lot to do with language and sound, if you will, but also communication. Um, Sometimes prayer is in the form of just communicating. Typically, prayers in Indian country are done in the ancient language. And even within one tribe's language, there may be multiple levels. For example, in my culture and tradition, the Acjachemen culture, we have different levels of language and different levels of prayer that uses certain sounds, if you will, or dialects for higher um, levels of prayer. And many prayers are also sung. Okay, there can be prayer in song as well. So there is incredible power, and when you can combine that power in a healing ceremony using prayer, there have been many times and examples and witnesses of how that prayer is effective and healing. Um, so that is one aspect of 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 communicating with our world and our environment, as well as with the higher realms, if you will, um, to do these things. So we have different ways to do that, different words, different names
Mhm.
for God, if you will, or the great creator, the energy that helps us. We do have those types of things there, and um, uh, prayer can also allow us to prepare to receive higher information or knowledge, sometimes through dreams or visions. Um, and many interesting information can come through dreams. Some of your listeners might be familiar with dream catchers. You see a lot of these as kind of decorative type things, but there's a practical use for them when they are um, authentic, like you said. And the practical use is to pull in the good um, information that is required while one is in a very much relaxed state of peace, and to bring in those good energies and those good messages, and at the same time to repel those that are not good. This is what this dream catcher um, tool really is. And again, there is some authenticity to it when it is required. Um, and so we do have various different types of tools in that way. Um, Also, in that can be used therapeutically as well. So there is some bridging, if you will, between modern medicine, and modern medicine may call it something else, right? They may call it dream therapy, right? Uh, um, and Native folks have been doing this type of um, practicing for a long time. And so there might be some bridge between the modern use and the traditional ancient use that could be effective. Just hanging up a dream catcher that you buy over at the some store is,
Walmart.
I really don't think is going to really give you the whole experience, if you will, if you're really looking for something. So there's more to it, I believe, than just that. Vision quests, if you will, if you are seeking knowledge and seeking a higher experience and connection with higher levels of communication or energies, sometimes is a individual experience. There are various different places where you go to have that type of experience, sacred locations that have these axes and conduits, if you will, sacred mountains, sacred hills. Sometimes they're specifically called vision mountains or fasting or prayer mountains in various different traditions. So these are real things, and they're still thriving today. As I started off, we're still very much here and still very much alive, and many of these practices are being passed on even today. So in some of the work that we do, we try to share some of this for folks that are specifically searching and have this need. We focus primarily on the warrior culture, if you will, right now, or folks who experience significant type of trauma who need this kind of healing. Um, we call it our Warrior Path program, where we use these different methods and tools to help folks who are seeking ways to find balance in their souls and relieve themselves or heal up the traumatic experiences of combat or emergency that they've experienced. So these are real things for us. I wouldn't recommend just trying to figure it out on your own. You know, there really is that authenticity which gives authority and real energy, if you will, to help instead of just going through a process and thinking that it's going to help. So very
Just
much so.
again, putting that in context and, just to reemphasize, I trained for 17 years, as a medical in
Hmm.
medicine before I hung
Right.
up my shingle and was ready to practice, where I felt, look, I've learned enough over time and I can authentically, deliver. And over the ensuing years, jumped into neurolinguistic programming, integrated energy healing, and still to this day feel, um, don't take this the wrong way, of course, very inadequate. And maybe that's my Socratic method, whereas like I'm looking to know what I don't know. And so I feel that there's still so much for me to learn. And so that's why I say that in that context. I mean, I know so much, but I also know that there's so much I don't know. And
Hmm.
I'm sharing that because I believe that, going back with Abraham Maslow, what he was talking about with his positive psychology is that there's no such thing as evil people. There's evil behavior, but not evil people. People are either born good or neutral at best. My point is this, is that we all do the best we can with the resources we have. And all behavior is motivated by positive intent. But the thing that we have to remember is that, somebody who goes through a weekend course of coaching now suddenly says he can cure the world. And I love the passion, and intent of that person, but again, it's very misguided. And so the point that I really want to get at is this: we have centuries of experience, we have centuries of knowledge, and for modern technology, modern science, when they can't understand something, they just ignore it, they deny it, they discount it, and it's all woo woo and forget about it. Don't go there. But what's important is when you can find the authentic origins
Hmm.
of these kinds of modalities and learn from them versus something that's advertised in Walmart or wherever,
Hmm.
as to, okay, you can do this. It's important to recognize what's really happening. Ultimately, when you think about it, as human beings, anything on this planet has a certain vibration, and our ancestors have learned over time, centuries of experience, not only on this continent but other continents, how they can tap into that vibration. Again, science
Hmm.
doesn't understand it,
Hmm.
but we don't have to understand to know that something actually works. And your experiences that have been passed on to you is what works.
Hmm.
And so that's why I like to put this in all of its context, where you find the authentic people that are sharing this, and only if you're ready, because not everyone is ready, and if it doesn't work, well, sometimes things just don't work.
Hmm.
But for me, what I'm passionate about, and I've always been passionate about, is is simply this. Being a plastic and reconstructive surgeon, I see the value of that. But the great importance is the value of understanding how we harness the potential of the body to restore form and function. Let me say
Hmm.
that again. How do we harness the potential that we have within us for healing?
Hmm.
And that's all the work that you do. And
That is true.
so I think it's so important for us to understand and appreciate it and find people like yourself,
Yeah.
and give the recognition for the sovereign nations for their knowledge,
Hmm.
and not discount them, because
Hmm.
we need you. We all need you. We need this more than ever before.
Yeah. I think that's very much true. And there are some holy people. There's different names in different cultures for the what might be referred to as the earth doctors, if you will, the medicine people we call them, right? Medicine men, medicine women. There are some folks that specialize and have been given and transmitted certain types of healing, or I wouldn't call it magical. It's magical when you don't understand it,
Mhm.
right? When you're on the outside looking at something that just happened, you think it's magic. And a lot of times I see in some documents and writings where they will refer to healing as magical, just
Right,
because there's no scientific
right,
explanation, right?
right.
But it's not really magic. It is the what you said, the ability for the individual to recognize the power within them, harness that, and utilize it. I've seen some medicine folks say, once you get to that point, sometimes they say the ritual aspect, the lighting of the sage, if you will, or the sweet grass, or the moving of the feather, or saying some words, or even moving around or doing some type of ritual, they say really is not the healing part. The healing part is for that individual to say, I can be healed, or the creator can heal me, or I believe that I can do this. Now, this doesn't discount at all the necessity of modern medicine, but even within modern medicine, I think that harnessing of that energy within is still an integral part of that kind of healing as well. And I think you'd find many examples of that. Um, Again, they're not always reported because there's no scientific reasoning for it, and oftentimes those are being left at the side or left on the shelf until there's some kind of scientific explanation. But the medicine men and medicine women spend a little bit more time than perhaps modern doctors in uh, uh, listening and talking and spending some time and analyzing the spirit and the energy more than just trying to discover symptoms and issue a prognosis. Um, Many times in Indian country, the healing process is just that, a process, not necessarily an event. The ceremony can be an event, but that's just wrapping everything up in a nice package that says, congratulations, here is your gift.
Right.
You see. So it's very interesting. Medicine folks are interesting people. You have to spend some time with them. They don't just come in and say, look at a chart and say, well, this is what I think it is.
Mhm.
They're part-time psychiatrists and part-time therapists and part-time listeners and part-time grandparent and part-time, you know, um, other things as well. It's a combination of folks, and I've seen them help other folks as well, non-native folks as well. But there's a protocol and a reverence, if you will, for their powers, and um, I think that's what it is. The things that have been passed on to me from my teachers, medicine people that have been passed on to me, I must be cautious on how I use it. If I say one specific word or sing one specific song, it's going to rain. It's going to start to rain, and it's going to, regardless of the weather, it will rain. That's how powerful this medicine is. And not that that's a bad thing. It's just you need to be cognizant of that responsibility. Others can do the same and make it snow. Others can say the same and turn into a deer or a bear. We've seen it happen. This isn't magic. This is our reality and the authenticity of the power of this medicine. Um, can you imagine bridging, or what you said, the collaboration between this type of medicine and with the technology and the minds and the experts like yourself, the combination between those two, what kind of outcome can come out of that? It could really be significant,
Well,
transformational.
it's actually happening, and the way that I position in my podcast is there's essentially three revolutions happening. Besides, what I think really needs to happen is the individual revolution, the revolution of the individual.
Yeah.
That's enhancing their consciousness. But the three that I always talk about is the wellness revolution, the regenerative medicine revolution, the stem cells. But then the one that people just haven't really quite figured out yet, and that is exactly what you talked about. It's the marriage between the biotechnology energy and then the spiritual energy, and how that's going to mesh together in the future. And it's really going to be really impactful.
Yeah.
And that's where we're going. But one thing I want to address, and as I was looking up my notes here, it was Hippocrates that actually say it's far more important to know what person the disease has than what disease the person has. So it's exactly what you're saying. And so there's enough corroboration in all different cultures and different countries and different times in all the things that you're saying. But we're so stuck on the Newtonian physics need for materialism to have absolute control over all this. When in essence, as I've always learned for myself, taught myself, is that controlling nothing is absolute control in a way. And so that's where we're open to the energies of our planet and coming in synchrony with that and figuring out a way to influence it, just like you said, how the language that you use influences your environment. And that is so true. But again, it's the challenge that we have in today's world is that people are scared of magic, and they're scared of magic because they don't understand it, they don't know how to control it, and they kind of begin to think that other bad things could happen versus just the good ones. And so
Yeah.
It's a scary thought. I mean, and that's where no control is absolute control because, just let it be. Let things be as they are. And as Nietzsche says, amore fati, which means love what is. And so
Mhm.
let's be in love what is rather than trying to knock it down, degrade it, just debunk it, whatever. Um, and let's look at quality of character. And that's
Mhm.
another reason for this podcast series is that opportunity to celebrate the authenticity of all the people that I talk to. And people can decide for themselves. Yeah, I like this guy. I resonate with this person. Let me find out more. And that's what we need to find more of. So as we're wrapping up, and we only have about 10 more minutes.
Mhm.
I love all the things that you're saying, but I'm really curious about your Native American spa.
Yeah. Yeah. As I mentioned before, there are certain um, uh, um, practices, treatments, if you will, of what we call the Native American spa, or even the Native pharmacy, Native American pharmacy, if you will. The when we step outside, we step into our pharmacy, and we can see all the wonderful things that can help us in different ways that Mother Earth has provided to us. Um, and these are in the healing aspects um, and qualities of herbs and plants. These are also a whole other tradition that is passed on. Many times, those types of traditions of the native pharmacy is passed on sometimes by family traditions. Okay, and then greater aspects are passed on from healers. So there's a whole, I'm talking hundreds of remedies using natural medicine from our great Mother Earth that that the Creator has provided us that still are planted and harvested naturally and consciously. Um, but the spa, which is a word today, which is a place you go to rejuvenate, if you will. Okay. Native folks have been conducting these types of remedies for quite a long time, using heat, using steam, using water, using um, stones and natural things, massage, and the power of hand and muscle tissues and these types of things for centuries, and still do to this day. One of our partners, Cedric Black Eagle, who is also one of the founders of Sunfire Tribal, who we work with directly from the Crow Tribe, conducts weekly sweats, which involves the healing aspect of heat and water and steam and meditation and prayer. That's very powerful. We also have another partner, Andy Nakai, who is Navajo, who brings experience and knowledge of these types of treatments in the southwestern region as well. So we use these techniques, the spa, native spa, and the native pharmacy, to help folks who we work with. Again, one of our target areas are folks who have had the warrior experience. Um, uh, Many times they have bodily issues that surgeons have tried to fix, but they're in need of a specialized type of heat therapy or steam therapy or sweat type therapy, massage as well, that we try to bring these remedies to them as well. And then of course utilizing our pharmacy as well to help internally with medicines that are very very much natural, and not just relieving symptoms, but actually healing the body and the soul. So we like to call it our Native American spa, and it's available to all. I mean, you could experience some of these things, but again, authenticity is really the key here, because you could possibly run into some complications and problems if you try to do these things on your own without the skill and the authority of those who have been passed on these things. So I highly recommend working with folks like us and other uh, native folks who have this knowledge to help you properly do those things. So it's quite a weekly experience, and we recommend folks to have that kind of experience. But again, an important aspect is like you said, knowing what disease um, is occupying these folks, or what energies they have. There's more to it than just knocking on the door saying, "Hey, I'm here for the sweat," right? There's more to it in order for it to be effective. But we enjoy it, and it really is a very natural way of bringing these wonderful gifts to others.
And as you said earlier on, a large part of it is just listening
Yeah,
first. And I think that's one thing that so many people actually forget. And that's
yeah.
part of my success too, with my clients and patients over time, is
Hmm.
we listen. So how do people find you? Because I know you've got some important projects, the Warrior Path
Right.
projects.
Yeah.
I know we only have about 2 minutes left, but
Hmm.
please share with us how people can find you.
Yes.
Um,
The best way to find out a little bit more about who we are, what we're doing, is to go to our website, sunfiretribal.com. And there you'll see some of the work we're doing on our Warrior Path. You can always email myself at Rivera@sunfiretribal.com. That's also on our website contact. You can find us also on Facebook and Twitter at Sunfire Tribal. We have many different programs. We're also working on a Native American medicine curriculum at this time,
love it.
where we can help folks experience through the knowledge base and also receive credit for their continued education in their specific practices. That's something we're very excited about launching with our expert teammates on things like this, to bring this to that part of the practicing folks. We also are looking um, to engage and provide a certification for authentic traditional Native American practices, like our Native American spa and the various different treatments there as well. So we're very excited about developing that. We hope to have it available to folks very soon. Please visit our website and contact us, and we'd be happy to work together and to help you have these authentic experiences in Indian country. So we're reaching out and looking to do our part in this world to continue who we are and to maintain and sustain these great practices.
I love it. And count me in on that curriculum. And on that note, too, by the way, I have a masterclass, a doctor's guide, to get back in the driver's seat of the practice. And an important part of that is sharing with them the mindset, the business tools, but more importantly, the different revenue models that they can utilize and how to remain relevant in today's changing world of medicine. And one of the things that I see is that doctors need to regain that central role in education and incorporating all the different types of modalities that are available, and especially including the natural ones. Because for me, I think that's where actually most of our answers lie, because it's really in the practices are in synchronicity with the vibrations of the body, and less likely to have all sorts of problems like we do see with drugs. Again, medicine as it is today is an important part of our lives. Everybody needs to understand what they're getting into, and most importantly, having the right mindset in yourself and with the people that you're working with to ensure that you're on the right path, because it's not right for everyone. But again, it's important for us to be able to embrace different solutions, for our path forward. And no one can ever tell us, there's only one way, or the way that you're thinking is the wrong way. So once again, Anthony, thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to collaborating many different ways. And I am Dr. Bart Rademacher, and this is Prescription for Your Transformation. Real people, real conversations, and real success, tapping into that collective wisdom to create that space of general collaboration, as well as to tap into our authentic genius, and so that we can live the life that we desire. Once again, thank you so much, and aho.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Dr. Rademacher's Prescription for Your Transformation. Continue the path towards discovering your own authentic genius by tuning in next time for more real conversations with real people.